POI. If you raise your hand, I will not accept it. Please don't wear POI because it will be very engaging. And what else? Oh yeah, my opinions is just for this debate purpose. We are friends, right? Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Shoot. 4 things that I'd like to drive here. First is rebuttal, second is clashes, next is extension, and last is wiki. First, let's go to my first rebuttal then. Earlier, the LO said something about accessibility, right? I would like to enforce it. I would like to reinforce that I don't think accessibility is relevant at all. Because the fact that emotion is just something that we feel inside of our body as you eventually achieving something as you or helping someone. But okay, let's say this, even if this is relevant, I think that both sides has accessibility, right? But what differentiates us is that in our side, happiness can be achieved simply by the previous examples that I've mentioned before. For example, you help your mom, you finally can make your own noodles or etc. You will feel happy. But then, in their side, accessibility will happen less. Why exactly? I can just tackle this simply because they're talking about applications, etc. When someone does not have phones, meaning they cannot access the applications that will give them happiness, right? And at the end of the day, people who doesn't have accessibility, they can never be happy then. But then onto my second rebuttal then, they said something about like more open space or something about whatever is that. And they also said something about women cannot educate themselves. I think this example is very irrelevant panels because at this point, we are not talking about the people, right? We are not talking about the centers of the people, for example, like Alexander Graham Bell or etc., right? We are talking about the modern societies itself. We are debating, our debate right here is not about the people, but about like the obsession of the people, right? But then I think social media creates a toxic space for people. Why exactly? Because the fact that people in social media are free to tell their opinion. Meaning, if you don't like someone, you can just say it, right? And when you want to be happy, and when you like so many people attack you from outside because they can just really say it, you won't be happy. Then you will actually be traumatized and more depressed just because like more people like discriminate you or whatever, or etc. But then, onto my third rebuttal, then they said something about ambitions, right? I think ambition still happens in both sides of the house, though. This is very an exclusive claim of their own because I think the fact that people are now can like the fact that people can get happiness. Very easily when they like very ambitious about like winning this competition, for example, and when they eventually win this competition, they like feel happy. That is actually a very simple example for that. But then onto my extension there, I would like to extend my first speaker's argument that she said that okay, humans have mental boundaries. I think on opposition side, this will look like normalizing the exploitation over their mental health then. Why would this be happen? I think society will see obsession with happiness as something that is being standardized, right? They have not rebutted that from the very first place, and if the government would want to rebut that, it will be too late. I think society will tell everyone to like achieve this certain standard, and if they don't achieve this standard, meaning they're different, right? But then onto my but then I would have to extend more. Well, why is this more harmful? Because I think the fact that people right now cannot feel exactly the same emotions. Like we cannot force them to feel exactly the same emotions. Why exactly? Because I think they have their own autonomy for their emotions exactly. But then I think this will be harmful for the people because people then will see themselves different from someone else, and when they see themselves different, they will be so stressed. Like, oh my God, why I cannot be happy? Other people can be happy, but I cannot be happy. When this happens, I think this will create some sort of like burnouts or anxiety or mental health depression, right? Because I think people then will eventually like see something that is standardized, and when they don't achieve that, they will like eventually like blame themselves or etc. But then onto my clashes that my first clashes is that in the government side of the house, everyone can feel happy in their own needs, but in the opposition side of the house, they said something like about accessibility of people, right? I think in our side of the house, why is this more beneficial comparing to the other side of the house? I think then the accessibility at the very first place is not very relevant, right? I have explained that in my first rebuttal. But then why is our side will be more beneficial? Because everyone then can feel the emotions that they want to in like and you if you want to achieve that, you can do it in many different ways, right? Not just by obsessing. And this in their side of the house, this will actually be harmful because they create this as an obsession in the society. So when you want to achieve happiness, it means that you have to be obsessed with happiness, right? But then onto my second clash is that on the government side of the house, this causes like psychological harm. However, they say that okay, people will be ambitious. I think why is our side more beneficial? I think as I have said in my rebuttals before, ambition happens in both sides of the house. It is very an exclusive claim of theirs, but I think psychological harm that will eventually be created to on a people that is like that expects like to meet a certain standards of the society, right? But then I think ambitions in their side of the house then will actually be more toxic. Because why? Because the fact that the fact that the ambitions that comes in their side of the house is not purely from your good intentions or good heart, but just because you want to meet a certain standards, you want to be validated by the society, that is very toxic. My LO and LO has explained to you, right? But then onto my weighing then. The first weighing is the cost effectiveness. I would like to weigh my first speaker's argument. In the government, people just have to give the freedom of emotion to people. However, the opposition team, if they want to achieve their goal, they have to erase or even reduce the emotional truth, or they will have to create like some sort of like accessibility that is not very accessible to everyone, right? I think why is our argument more important? Because we give like the people to not like to like achieve a happiness in their own way, right? In their side of the house, they have to use applications, which, as we all know, poor people, if they don't have one, they can have applications, and if they cannot have applications, they cannot like feel happy, right? But then onto my second weighing that I think regarding my second speaker argument, this causes in the government team, all people can feel happy. However, in their side of the house, only certain people can feel happy because only certain amount of people can access it, right? I think the government team is way more important because I think that people eventually, at the very first of the day, people has the rights to feel happy, and when the people have the rights to feel happy, I think there's no reason for us to make certain applications that can make people happy, right? Thank you, and proud to propose.
Thank you for the